in July. But this spring, Olympians are already here. They are led by trampolinist Mathieu from Unionville. Turgeon captured a bronze medal in Sydney as the event reached Olympic full medal status. A master of the mini trampoline is mitruk, who partners husband Chris. Her goal is to reach the World Championships to defend their 1999 title. The tumblers will also need to make their mark. Matt Dial from Red Deer, Alberta, chalked up strong performances in the prelims. His star is set to soar. Today, part 2 of the Canadian Trampoline and Tumbling Championships. Once again, here are your hosts, Scott Russell and Laurie Strong-Ballard.
Inside the athletic complex at Humber College for competition at the Canadian Trampoline and Tumbling Championships. The story today involves a Canadian Olympic medalist trying to regain his form and find a spot on the World Championship team. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Trampoline and Tumbling on CBC Sports Saturday. Scott Russell, as always, joined today by Laurie Strong-Ballard. And you know what, Laurie? Mathieu in September won a bronze medal in the sport of trampoline as it made its debut at the Olympic Games. Now, 9 months later at the National Championships, Mathieu is guaranteed of absolutely nothing.
Unfortunately, Mathieu finds himself under incredible pressure heading into this final. He needs some very high scores in order to solidify his chances of being on that World Championship team. But I guess that just shows the depth of the sport of trampoline in Canada when your Olympic medalist is fighting for a spot. And if you remember back to Sydney, he put together the performance of his life, and that's exactly what he needs here.
So there is daylight for Mathieu. Now let's turn our attention to power tumbling on the men's side. And the national championship is up for grabs, and in every sense of the word, Laurie, there's a new kid on the block.
Matt Dial is an impressive athlete, and he throws some incredible difficulty. At their provincial championships in Alberta, he did a tumbling pass that ended with a triple back. That's some of the biggest difficulty. The first time a Canadian has ever thrown that kind of difficulty, and he has it on his DD card here in the final, so we're going to see some big stuff.
Double mini tramp again. How good is that? Last week we saw Chris Mitruk, a world champion, compete. Today it's his wife, Lisa Mitruk, also a world champion.
And Lisa has a great chance of picking up a national title here. You said it, she is the defending world champion, but she has struggled with injuries in the past. In fact, last year at the national championships, she was injured, and this year she has a bruised heel, which she sustained last week in practice. So she's going to water down things, not take any risk, do only skills that she knows that she can perform well and score high on.
Speaking of the world champion, she's standing by on the sidelines with our Aaron Paul.
I'm here with the current world champion in double mini, Lisa Mitruk. Lisa, last year you retired after nationals. You're back competing this year. Why is that?
I decided it was time for me to put my career first and leave trampoline behind. Becoming a police officer, it would take a lot of my time. But York Regional Police has supported me so much, and they said it looks great on them for me to be so actively involved, and so I've just decided to keep going.
Great. We're going to see you later in the program, but right now we're going to send it back to Scott.
Right, Aaron, ahead on today's show, men's tumbling will log on to Matt Dial of Alberta. Laurie's Chalk Talk is about new innovations. The women's double mini tramp features Lisa Mitruk, as we said, and we'll profile Michel Green of Quebec and his trial on the trampoline. In the meantime, we flash back to the winning performance on the synchro trampoline for women. Brenna Casey and Heather McManus, the defending Canadian champions, but they were second slightly after the preliminaries.
And in the synchro competition, the pairs must be exact mirror images of each other. In addition to 5 for difficulty, there are 3 judges who look at the synchronization. Their eyes are just on their feet as they hit the trampoline to see if they are in perfect timing. Brenna and Heather are right on. They came into this competition in second, but with that routine, it'll secure them the national title.
Heather McManus, 27 years old, of Almonte, Ontario, and Brenna Casey, 20 years old, of Ottawa, the current Canadian champion. And of course, they were hoping that routine would put them into the top spot again. Indeed, it did. So consecutive Canadian championships for this duo. So it's Casey and McManus to win it, followed by Zanon and McManus. Allison Tanaka and Cassie Siwek ended up third. Coming up next, the power tumbling prowess of Red Deer, Alberta's Matt Dial. Stay with us as CBC Sports Saturday continues. Scott Russell with Aaron Paul and Laurie Strong-Ballard. The standings after the preliminary competition in men's tumbling. Alberta makes its mark here. Matt Dial, what a lead over David Poirier of Quebec. David Cowen of Alberta is currently in third position. It gets close after that. There are 2 tumbling runs to go in this final. And first up is Chris Johnston, a 21-year-old of Red Deer, Alberta, coming in 9th position after a 56.8 over 2 passes.
And 8 skills in each pass. No repetition is allowed. In the big skills, they can repeat roundoffs, back handsprings, and whips. I see some big difficulty. Opening with a double layout in the middle. A full, chest was down on the landing. But he pulled that one out onto his feet.
Competes at the Phoenix Gymnastics Center, and his coach is Trish Quinney.
He struggled with his second pass in preliminaries, and he has some ground to make up. I love that double layout. He flies, and his second rotation is higher than his first. Here's the full in, full out. Chest is down. He was not going to put those hands on the ground. Had he put the hands down, it would have been a 4/10 deduction.
Chris was 5th at the Canadian Championships last year, 33.8 his score, the first pass here in the final. Scott Fischer now of British Columbia. Preliminary score 62.8, left him in 7th position.
Seeing the tumblers do 2 sets of double saltos, a double tuck in the middle to a full in tuck. Nice strong landing. See that center line, you don't want to deviate far from that. If he touches the lines on the outer side, then the pass will be terminated. Right down the center, finishing with the full in tuck.
Scott was very close to a medal in the double mini tramp competition last week. 31.9 his score, first time out in the tumbling final. Ontario always sends contenders to the national championships. 21-year-old Ryan Lyons of Windsor, Ontario. He's a student in human kinetics and competes for the WinStars Gymnastics Club.
He has 20 seconds to begin his pass after presenting to the judges, or there will be a 2/10 penalty. There's the double layout, nice in rhythm, finishing with a double pike. Very clean form.
Ryan was second at both trials for the World Championship team, Red Deer and Vancouver.
Ryan's a very quick twitched athlete. There's the double layout, nice form in the air, arms down by the side. Stretching through the back handspring to get ample height for the last element, a double pike.
6th after preliminary competition, 34.5 should help him move up.
It's the best I've seen Ryan do in this competition so far. Nice strong first pass.
Back to Ontario. And a Sudbury native, Denis Vachon. One of the younger competitors, only 16 years of age.
Pretty good job for a first-time senior. Double tuck in the middle, finishes up with the double pike.
Denny was the youth national champion last year.
He's a little bit slow in his rhythm, coming out of the double tuck, a little high on the whips, but he gains the momentum back. Very wide arm set into that double pike. Getting the arms by the ears might help him lift the height a little bit.
5th after preliminaries, along with his coach, Alan Klaus. 32.10 for 16-year-old Denis Vachon of Ontario. Senior member of the Ontario team now, Steve Whiteside from London. He's a high school teacher. Coming into this competition 4th.
His most difficult skill comes at the end. Nice clean whips. There's the full in. But his DD will be a little bit lower compared to the other competitors. He's missing that double salto in the middle that we saw from the first few. Nice stretch in the whips. Normally we would see a double salto there and they continue out of it. He's missing that, but finishes with a nice full in and kicks it open.
Last year at the Canadian Championships, he was 6th, trying to move up from that. Came in here 4th, 32-10, a nice score for Steve Whiteside. The Albertans are always contenders in tumbling when it comes to men's competition. 19-year-old David Cowen is right there from Edmonton Phoenix Gymnastics.
There's the double layout, the third one we've seen in this competition so far. Direction problem. Everybody pulls out the double pike. As long as he didn't touch those lines on the outside, then he's okay. There will be a slight deduction for deviating from the line. There's the double layout. The direction problem happens right here. Looks like his knees buckled slightly into that double pike. He needed to be a little bit tighter on the takeoff to get extra height.
Well, his coach Trish Quinney liked it. 33-6 is a very good score for David Cowen, keeps him in contention. From Quebec, David Poirier, 17 years old, from Actonville.
David's throwing some big time difficulty. A DD of an 8.2. Oh, so quick. Look at that tempo. Full in straight, slight knee bend in the air, but incredible difficulty.
Daniel Constantin, his coach, the vault is yours.
Again, no repetition is allowed. There's the double layout. The final skill is very similar, but he adds a full twist to it. First salto, second salto with the full twist in the laid out position.
Well, what a move up by the Quebec champion, David Poirier, 35-9, huge score in his first tumbling run here in the final. And that will put a little bit of pressure on Red Deer, Alberta's Matt Dial, 19 years old, by far and away the leader after the preliminary competition, where he scored a total of 72.5. And he's coached by a former Canadian champion, Keith McDonald.
He is way above the field, not only score-wise, but in difficulty. He's about to perform a pass that ends with a triple back right here, the first time at a Canadian National Championships, and he's on his feet. That is incredible.
Huge effort by Matt Dial. Crowd responds here at Humber College.
He's a compact, powerful tumbler who can simply fly. He starts his pass very close to the run-up, so he has plenty of room to stretch out his back handspring to give him ample power, strong snap down into that triple back.
Second last year at the Canadian Championships. Look at the score. Better than David Poirier's, 36.9 for Matt Dial. And so after the first pass of the finals, it's Matt Dial way out in front of David Poirier of Quebec, who has overtaken another Albertan, David Cowen. Laurie's Chalk Talk is next when we return to the Canadian Championships.
Subway sandwiches are perfect for active summer days.
Look at us, everything is all right, and we owe it to the man who showed us the light. Feeling good, having fun in the sun. Subway's taste is #1.
And how's Jared doing these days? Great. He's still following a balanced diet, including sandwiches from Subway.
State-of-the-art Olympics. Meantime, innovation is key to this edition of Chalk Talk with Laurie Strong-Ballard.
Recently, some of the biggest stories in sport haven't only been about the athletes and their performances, but rather the technological advances in their equipment. In Nagano, Japan, at the last Winter Olympics, the invention of the clap skate revolutionized the sport of speed skating. Performance levels skyrocketed and old records were shattered in impressive style. At the recent Summer Olympics in Sydney, the most technologically advanced swimsuit made its debut at the pool. The full body suit is made of a material called fast skin, which is intended to mimic that of shark skins. This revolutionary suit has proven to decrease swim times by 3%, causing a slew of world records to be broken. Similarly, the sport of power tumbling have seen some major advances in the construction of their tumbling strips. Athletes first performed on simple mats at competitions that date back as far as the 1800s. Now they compete on what's called a rod floor. Under layers of cushioning, the raised floor is sprung by horizontal fiberglass rods. Now, don't get me wrong, power tumblers need an incredible amount of athletic ability and, of course, power. But the invention of the rod floor has literally brought this sport to new heights. It's now common to see passes consisting of 2 or more series of double or triple somersaults. But the increase in difficulty is not the only aspect of the sport affected by improvements in the apparatus. The rod floor is more forgiving on the body, allowing power tumblers to train longer hours and even crash without sustaining any serious injury. Ultimately, safety is a priority, but like every sport, so is the race to get higher, faster, and stronger.
And there's plenty of that going on after one pass in the men's final. The tumbling runs. Matt Dial way out in front, 109.4 over David Poirier of Quebec. David Cowen of Alberta is currently third. And now the second and final passes will start with Ryan Lyons of Ontario.
And Scott, so far I've been thoroughly impressed with the level of this competition. We're seeing some big-time skills. Remember, Ryan had a fantastic first pass. Let's see if he can better it here. Whip full in the middle there, ending with a full-in pike.
A little bit of a windmill on the landing as he struggled to get it under control.
A little bit lower difficulty in this pass, but it was pretty clean. He adds the whip full in the middle there. There's no double salto, but that whip full will help juice up his DD.
Came in the 4th spot. One last chance to make an impression. And he did get the DD up, 33.2 for Ryan Lyons, who will likely maintain that position, if not better it. The youngster now, Denis Vachon of Ontario, only 16 years old.
And gaining some valuable experience in his first senior finals. There's the whip full in the middle. The same pass we saw Ryan do with the piked full in. Not quite the stretch we saw in Ryan's whips. There's the whip full. He slightly piked down. The whips are the back handsprings with no hands. Gives him 2/10 in difficulty. The piked full in was very nice.
And struggled to hang on at the end. 31-3 for 16-year-old Denis Vachon of Ontario.
You know, Scott, I thought the scores would be a little bit higher there. It was pretty clean.
We did see a 36+ from Matt Dial, the leader in that first tumbling run in the final. Steve Whiteside is the senior Ontario tumbler here.
Saw him visualizing for his last skill, the set, the twist, and the landing. There it is. Set, twist, full in pike over rotation.
Worst of all possible end results. A nice run, but couldn't hang on to the landing as he was out the back end.
Judges are very strict with the landings. He did show that he tried to take a step out of it, so he will get credit for the DD, but he will lose on the landing. 5/10 for the fall. There's the step, so he gets credit for the DD.
Well, imagine what this score could have been. A 30.1 for Steve Whiteside of London, Ontario. Now to the top 3. David Cowen of Alberta, currently trailing David Poirier, and the runaway leader right now, his teammate Matt Dial.
David has an interesting combination of skills. His most difficult one came in the middle, finishing with a full to a double full. Nice, clean, solid pass.
His coach, Trish Quinney.
There's the full in straight. Continues with the whips, struggling a little bit with his rhythm right there, but he gains it back under control for the full twist to a double full. It was interesting, though. The judges had a big difference in opinion. One gave him an 8-1, and the other gave him a 9-1. That's a big discrepancy. Still the biggest score we've seen in the final run, a 33-9 for David Cowen of Alberta. Now, David Poirier, who put in a 35-plus run first time out here in the final, will try to match that, put a little pressure on Matt Dial, who is still well ahead. Different skills, but the same difficulty rating as his first pass, landing back on the track, bouncing out into the landing.
Crowd really warming up to David Poirier, the Quebec champion.
And very showy in everything he does. Full in, full out there, losing a little bit of rhythm, not getting quite the stretch he would like in the whips. That's why he's short on this landing back on the track. That'll be a 2/10 deduction for not landing in the zone, but some big time difficulty.
32-10 for David Poirier, and unless Matt Dial can't put in a decent run here, he will not be able to challenge the Albertan. Now trying to regain the Canadian championship that he lost last year, Matt Dial.
We saw the triple back in the first pass, but believe it or not, this one has more difficulty. He's going to end with a Miller. Oh! Outstanding. Not quite enough height to make the 2 rotations with 3 twists. That's what the Miller is. But that difficulty was way above everyone else. Full in, full out. Count the twists here. Triple. Incredible.
Tough landing, but the routine was tough to do. 31-7 for Matt Dial, and that will be more than enough for him to be the Canadian champion. It was a lead too big to squander. Matt Dial of Red Deer, he wins by more than 6 full marks over David Poirier of Quebec. David Cowen, another Albertan, claims the bronze medal. Aaron Paul is standing by with the 2-time Canadian champion.
I'm with the senior men's tumbler champion, Matt Dial. Matt, your degree of difficulty is through the roof. You've been 0.2 off the world record in past. How do you do it?
Oh, you got to have a great coach. He works me well. We train hard. Come here, there's lots of people cheer you on, lots of motivation. It's lots of fun, and I just enjoy doing it, so it comes easy.
Now, you were really going for it in that last pass. You were going for the Miller. What happened?
I didn't go straight up enough. I leaned back too much, so I cut back my flip, and I didn't have enough. But hopefully next time.
Well, it was certainly enough to win. Thanks very much, Matt.
Coming up next, it's to the intricate double mini tramp. World champion Lisa Mitruk's word is the law in this sport in more ways than one.
Marvin Mange had no luck with women.
Ladies.
But a sudden accident and an experimental surgery are making his dreams come true.
Somebody help my boy!
I had a date with Marvin.
But he could lose it all if he doesn't hide the animal inside.
Marvin?
He was trying to get out.
The Animal. Now playing in theaters everywhere.
Unit 4, get Sam.
Sam, what is it, boy?
Dare to dream. Workopolis.com.
That's a terrible, stupid question.
How Ralph Klein rules the press.
Reporters are supposed to fight against that in columnists.
No.
Undertones. It's late, but worth it.
For us, it's pretty simple. We're there to tell Canadians what's important about what happened in that day. And at the end of the day, if we've done that, we've done our job.
The National, weeknights on CBC.
Can't get a seat on the next space shuttle? Want to teach your computer to talk? I like it. Unlock the secrets of the CBC for Kids website. Get interactive, play games, enter contests, try a quiz, or just chat with other kids.
That's unbelievable!
Discover weird news from the world of science. Or how about creating your own newscast? From money sense on banking to the cutest pet contest. Find out the answers to questions you have and sign on with cbcforkids.ca.
CBC Sports Saturday, where the action is.
The trampoline standings after preliminaries reveal a bit of a surprise. Lisa Mitruk, the world champion, down in 4th spot. but she's only 3/10 back of the leader, Cheryl Johnson. The top 5 separated by only 3/10 total.
Lisa may be in 4th, but she told me before the competition that she's very confident with her ability to execute and score high on her 2 passes that she has planned for the finals.
29 years old, a police officer with Peel Regional Police Force. She competes for Burlington Gymnastics and is coached by Bill Perkins. She won the World Championship in Sun City, South Africa in '99.
Take a look at the extraordinary height she gets in her jumps. Kicking it open, booting that double pike out. Little step on the landing. She has a great natural jumping ability. She lands a little bit on the end of the trampoline here, and that shoots her backwards. But because of the strength in her legs, she gets plenty of height to open that double pike up.
There she is with Coach Bill Perkins, 30.9. Tied for 4th coming into this final competition. And she was tied with Shannon Lee, an 18-year-old of North Vancouver, British Columbia, who competes for the West Coast Dynamos.
Shannon does a little bit of a different style. You're going to see a straight jump mount. A lot of control there, double back, fliffus out. She looked a little out of control right from the start, but she pulled it together for the last 2 elements. In a pass, there's a maximum of 3 contacts with the bed with no intermediate skills between them.
She's got a run of seconds going in 2000, 99 and 97, 30.6 her score, and so she's 3/10 back of Lisa Calusi-Mitruk there. Lisa Bentz now of Alberta, 3rd after preliminary competition with a score of 61.10.
Mount her tuck. Fliffus pike, nice solid landing. She had tight, clean form throughout the entire pass, but the degree of difficulty was a little bit lower, and her height was definitely lower than what we saw from Lisa. There's the fliffus pike. Bending the knees slightly, had to create that rotation to get to her feet.
Score is going to be lower as well, 30.2 for Lisa Bentz of Alberta, and so Lisa Calusi-Mitruk, the world champion, continues to move out in this final. Cassie Siwek of Ontario, 2nd after the first half of the competition. Score was 61.2. She's from Toronto.
The exact same pass we just saw Lisa Bentz do, a little bit bigger in amplitude, but her chest was slightly down on the landing, but the form was impeccable. Starts with a straight jump up onto the flat part of the trampoline. That's called a mounter. Back tuck into the fliffus pike. Chest is down. She's struggling for that landing, but giving away. No more execution errors.
She won the World Team Trial in Vancouver, 30.4 her score. Again, the world champion, Calusi-Mitruk, moves up in the field. Cheryl Johnson was the leader after the preliminary competition. 21 years old from Orangeville.
Oh, she overshot the straight mount. There's nothing that she could do. You know, Scott, sometimes at a big competition like this, an athlete can get overzealous. The adrenaline gets to you. Way too much height, out of control forward. She will receive zeros.
And her coach, Bill Perkins, could do nothing but stand and watch, and there it is. Nothing across for Cheryl Johnson in this first pass of the final. That has to be devastating. So after the first pass, the world champion, Lisa Calusi-Mitruk, moves to first, but only slightly over Cassie Siwek of Ontario and Shannon Lee of British Columbia. On to the second pass, and this is the defending national champion, 20-year-old Brenna Casey of Ottawa, who comes in here, Lori, carrying some baggage.
You're right, she's in 6th place right now because she scored a 0 in her first pass in the preliminaries. Certainly a sour start to her national championships, but she's come back strong in the finals. A very nice second pass.
Brenna Casey is a kinesiology and health sciences student and competes for Skyriders.
Showing impeccable form here in the mounter full. Fliffus pike. Legs were glued together right to the end for a nice solid landing.
Her coach is Nick Earl. 31-4 gives them cause to smile, particularly after that 0, as you said, Lori, in the preliminaries. That's all but eliminated her from medal contention. Second pass now for Julie Warnock of Alberta. After the preliminaries, she was 6th.
The run is so important, and the hurdle. All right, nice job. She could have kicked out that second skill, the double back, a little bit more. She had plenty of height. But I think what went wrong here, she had a little bit of a direction problem, and that can really throw you off mentally. She's just thinking about landing on her feet at this point.
Had a 30.2 to move up her first pass in the final and betters that with a 30.5. So a strong finish for Julie Warnock of Alberta. Now the world champion who had the lead after the first pass here in the finals, Lisa mitruk.
The half out pike, full in pike. Another great job going through these passes like it's easy. Showing extreme height. Not quite as clean as I've seen her do this in the past, but solidly on her feet.
And I think wondering a little bit why she's so far back on the mat. 30.9, which equals her score in the first pass, and her lead is still very tentative. Shannon Lee of British Columbia, one of her close competitors.
Shannon has a little bit of a different strategy. She's going to do less difficulty, but she has to perform it with impeccable form. She gets the job done, clean lines.
Didn't clear the back trampoline by much.
Definitely her power is not as big as Lisa mitruk's. The difficulty's lower, a spotter layout to a fliffus pike, almost hitting the trampoline on the way down.
30.5, 4/10 back of mitruk. So the chance for the national championship is gone for Shannon Lee. Lisa Bentz of Alberta in the running for a medal.
Ooh, way forward. Almost the same thing we saw Cheryl Johnston do earlier, but she did pull out a back layout, but she still will receive a 0 because none of the skills landed back on the trampoline. She completed none of the elements.
Sold by Trish Quinney, but here's one more look at this failed attempt.
There's too much power into that straight jump. Gainers her forward, taking off of that red zone. That's a tough break.
Well, it's a harsh score, but there it is, 0 for Lisa Bentz, the last attempt here in the final. Cassie Siwek can put some pressure on her Ontario teammate, Lisa mitruk, last competitor here in the double mini tramp for women.
Almost flawless form, but I'm afraid the difficulty isn't going to be high enough.
She needs a 31.2 to tie the world champion.
You really can't take any execution errors. Nice tight layout, arms glued by the side. Fliffus tuck, kicks it open at 12 o'clock, solid landing, but the difficulty isn't high enough.
Right again, Lori, right again, 31-10 for Cassie Siwek. It was just that close. So Lisa mitruk comes from back in the pack to win her 3rd Canadian championship. A narrow victory, 1/10 over Ontario's Cassie Siwek. Shannon Lee of BC is 3rd.
It's not the best I could do my passes, but I stayed on my feet. It feels really good having won this meet, having my next meet being World Championships and then World Games. It's a big boost of confidence.
Good luck in the Worlds.
Thank you.
Back to you, Scott.
Now to a desperate man. Olympic medalist Matt Turgeon tries to come from way back to catch a berth on the world champion men's trampoline. Spots on the world championship team, which competes in Denmark in August, up for grabs. After preliminaries, it looks like this. Quebec's veteran Michel leads, followed by 4 Ontarians. There's Ben Snape and Paul Cameron, and Olympian Matt Turgeon, who is down, surprisingly, in 4th spot. Up first to the trampoline from British Columbia, Ryan Ward, who is 8th after the preliminaries with a score of 57.3. He is 10 full marks back of Michel Green.
He's added more difficulty to his finals routine. Not quite as high as some of the others. He's still trying to feel comfortable with this difficulty before adding the height. Getting through all 10 skills. That's what he was looking for.
Rough landing, but Ryan Ward got it done.
You can see him traveling all over the trampoline here, trying to keep it together, thinking quickly, pulling himself back to the middle of the trampoline.
35 even the score for Ryan Ward, trying to move up from 8th after the preliminary competition. 19-year-old Marty Myers of Toronto, a York University student, and like so many of the competitors here, a member of the Skyriders Club.
Marty struggled with his preliminary routine, so he's looking for a very clean final set. He's going to start off with the triffus. A lot of the athletes are starting with the triffus. It requires tremendous height. There it is, in the pike position, and it has a high difficulty rating. It's a pretty stable first element, though. Showing nice control all the way to the end. That's the routine he wanted.
He won the second of the World Championship trials in Red Deer, Alberta. A good score will be approaching 40.
Thank you.
Everything went as planned in this routine. He did it exactly as written on his DD card.
I like it, man.
That's got to feel good, Scott.
Perfect. Yeah. Right on. No X.
Marty Myers 7th after preliminaries. 38.9 is a great score in the final for the young Ontarian. Meantime, from the province of Quebec, Olivier Lemieux.
In the new code of points, difficulty is worth about 20% more than it used to be. The trampoline is still dominantly an all-form sport, but the gutsy athlete who throws the big skills is being more rewarded now, especially those triples. Oh, big trouble here, traveling back and forth on the trampoline, but he pulls it back together now in the center. Oh. That was a gutsy routine, hanging in there right to the end.
Well, he had the skills, but Olivier had trouble hitting the target. His coach is Alain Deschênes there.
Came into trouble right at the start with the Rudy out. Half in, half out tuck. Not showing nice clean positions. He's gonna have some execution errors. Traveling so much, he's out of the picture there, but he pulls it back to the center for the middle of the routine.
Caused a few heart palpitations, but Olivier Lemieux scores well, 35.8. He competes for Quadro Tramp in Quebec. Now, Chris Mitruk, who of course won the Canadian Championship in the double mini trampoline. After the preliminaries in this, the individual trampoline was 5th.
Yes, he definitely struggled in the preliminaries. He has a huge first and last skill planned. You can see the height difference there into the triffus pike. It's really beautiful to watch because of his long lines. Really enhances his form. In trouble there, off to the side, similar to the synchro event when he hit the spring on the side and he pulls it back together for that tuck miller at the end.
27-year-old Chris Mitruk, Burlington, Ontario.
Chris was really thinking throughout this routine. When he found himself in trouble traveling to the side, he added just a simple layout, making sure not to repeat anything, and finished big with that miller.
Great score, 37.8. He is, by the way, coached on this event by Dave Ross of Skyriders. Mathieu Turgeon, the reigning Canadian champion, and of course the Olympic bronze medalist from Sydney, where trampoline made its debut. We saw his performance there, Laurie. It was brilliant as he caught the medal for Canada, but he's in difficulty here, currently 4th after preliminaries, and he has had trouble at both World Championship trials.
He needs the performance of his life right here to put him on that World Championship team. Beautiful height into the trifice. His coach, Dave Ross, told me he likes the new code of points because it rewards difficulty. Matthew's in some trouble here. Pulling it back together. All right, but I'm not sure if that's going to be good enough. He was traveling in the center, in the middle of the routine.
Well, the crowd held its breath for the Olympic bronze medalist.
Trouble started right there with the Randy. Talk about some difficulty. A 2.5 twist, but he was traveling. Finishing nice and strong, nice clean form, arms glued by the side.
Amazing.
But I'm not sure if that's going to be enough, Scott.
38.7 is a good score for Matt Turgeon, but will it be enough to get himself on that World Championship team? Here is a veteran, Paul Cameron, 30 years old, 3rd after the preliminaries. He's from Thornhill, Ontario. A teammate at Skyriders with Mathieu Turgeon. First competed at World Championships in 1990.
He was the Canadian national champion in 1990, retired for 5 years, and now came back to the sport and opening with a trifice. Not quite the height that we saw Matt perform. He's getting through all 10 skills, finishing up nicely.
Paul Cameron, 3rd after the preliminary competition. Has had a great deal of success in his career in the synchro tramp.
Trampolinists, you see a lot going on in their routines. They actually see that trampoline bed throughout every skill. You could see him spotting, knowing exactly where he is with every skill.
37.9 for Paul Cameron, and that moves him well ahead of the Olympic bronze medalist Mathieu Turgeon. Now down to 2 competitors. Ben Snape, born in Pointe Claire, Quebec, but he lives in Pickering, Ontario, 22 years old, and he came into this final competition in 2nd spot.
He's one of the cleanest performers here, and this is a new routine for Ben. You hear him breathing out. He is working hard. Takes a tremendous amount of strength. Trouble right there, traveling to the very end of the trampoline. Whoa, whoa. He'll still get credit for all 10 skills, but out of control. There'll be an execution deduction there at the end. His heart is pumping.
Signaled the judges, just got it in.
There's the trifice pike. Difficulty was outstanding in this routine, and his form was pretty impeccable, but he was traveling. There'll be some deductions, and of course, for that ending.
Along with Mathieu Turgeon, Ben Snape won the gold medal in the synchro tramp. 35.20. He manages to mine that out of that flawed performance. Michel Green is a senior partner in this sport. Went to his first World Championship in '92. Now he's looking for another Canadian trampoline crown, and he may have to do it by laying down the law in the final.
He's a powerhouse of Canadian trampoline, a 5-time national champion. But Michel Green doesn't just battle in the air.
By day, his arena is a Montreal courtroom where he's a crown prosecutor.
I always liked that role as a crown prosecutor. That's what I wanted to do. So when I studied in school, I took all the classes that referred to criminal law. And once I got into criminal law, I applied for articling at the Crown's office, and I was lucky to get the job.
He wasn't about to give up his first love, even for the law. And so he juggles fighting cases with fighting gravity.
It's probably the closest thing you can find to flying. You know, you're free when you're in that trampoline. Of course, there's stress because there's always the danger factor that is there. But once you're able to do it and you finish it, you released everything. You're free.
The skills he needs to compete serve him well in front of a judge.
They're quite different in what you do every day, but in the aspect, the mind frame, it's still an adversary process, and it's still the competitiveness there. There's also the stress factor. When you're there doing your case, you're in charge of it. It's like when you're getting on that trampoline and there's no sound, there's only you, the trampoline, and the sound of the springs when you're jumping. It's about the way it feels when you're either pleading to the judge or whatsoever.
The security of knowing he has something else to fall back on actually helps him to relax in competition.
When you have an amateur sport career, one injury and it's over. Now you always have something to rely on. I've heard a lot of athletes that were depressed or didn't know what to do once they retired. I already do what I want to do. So at that point, that put a lot less stress on me when I compete compared to the other one.
That level-headed attitude was tested in '99 when Michel headed to the World Championships, his one chance to qualify for trampoline's Olympic debut.
I didn't really do a good compulsory, and Matt beat me. I'd say I was shocked. I was, of course, disappointed a lot. That was my goal.
That disappointment, coupled with an injury last year, forced Michel to take time off to refocus. But he's back this year with a first-place finish in Vancouver, and he's got his eyes set on those World Championships in July.
This year, I want to go back into finals at Worlds. That's the big event, the top 10 Worlds. There's over 100 competitors from every country, and that's what everybody wants. In 1996, I did really well. I finished 6th at Worlds, and I want to get back and try to beat that.
29 years old from Saint Bruno, Quebec, originally from Chicago, Illinois. 5 times between 1999 and 94, he has been the Canadian champion.
So far, Ben Snape has had the highest difficulty of 15.2, but the risk didn't pay off. Michel also has a high degree of difficulty planned. Starting with the triple, Triffus Pike. He has 2 of them in his routine. There's the Triffus Tuck. He's very tight, kicking out every element at 12 o'clock. Oh, excellent routine.
And stayed right on the target all the way. His coach is Alain Duchesne of Quadro Tramp.
What a rush this kind of a performance gives an athlete. It all comes together, the difficulty and the clean lines, and there's the score.
Up over 40, the only one we've seen, 40.1 for Michel Green. He has soared above the rest of the field to claim his 6th Canadian title. Ontario's Paul Cameron and Ben Snape are a distant 2nd and 3rd, respectively. Green is now bound for the Worlds in Denmark, and he's standing by with Aaron Paul.
Michel, you had to take time out of your training last year because of an injury. You've come back strong with a win in Vancouver and now the Canadian Championship. What does this do for your confidence going into Worlds?
Well, that's really good because I wanted, first of all, coming back from an injury, my first goal was to make the team and then work strongly to peak at Worlds. Now I can show up at Worlds with the title and also being the first on the team, so I get to pick the best spot on the ranking list to jump off. So that's also good for the confidence, and it's also good for the possibility that could happen at Worlds.
The Worlds in Denmark to be held in August. We'll return to review the teams in just a moment. 6th Canadian title for Michel, who stands just slightly ahead of Paul Cameron and Ben